Sometimes it only takes one, and Lindsey Graham might turn out to be the one Republican senator who does the most damage to Donald Trump.
Reported details released by WikiLeaks of how the CIA is able to turn personal and home devices into potent eavesdropping tools.
Is the CIA listening to me through my microwave oven?
No.
If they were, would you say yes?
Yes.
The president has accused the U.S. government under his predecessor of tapping his phones. Wow.
Trump said it was particularly upsetting because he's a private man who likes to keep his thoughts to himself.
It would be great if there was any evidence presented.
You can't fact check crazy.
Is the president the target of a counterintelligence investigation?
I think that's what we need to find out.
The president said he was tapped. He said that as a fact.
I understand that.
At real Donald Trump, I tweet. Russia attacked the United States of America.
Russia is a ruse.
They interfered with our internal affairs. They tried to influence our election. I love WikiLeaks.
We got a chance to look at some of the raw intel product. We've got even more questions now.
This is a major deal for the country. I want to get to the bottom of it.
The worst day of the presidential campaign for Donald Trump was the day he got caught admitting to crimes on tape.
I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the you can do anything.
No Republicans were more offended by that video than Utah Republicans. In hours of breaking news coverage of that situation, when it broke that night, Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz got on the phone with me that very night to give us his reaction.
My wife and I, we have a 15-year-old daughter. How in the world could I look my 15-year-old daughter in the eye and say, honey, you know what? Your dad endorses Donald Trump for president. I can't do that.
Utah Senator Mike Lee posted a video on Facebook saying this.
Mr. Trump, that I respectfully ask you, with all due respect, to step aside. Step down.
And former Utah Governor Jon Huntsman, who is also a former ambassador to China for President Obama and a former presidential candidate, retracted his endorsement of Donald Trump. And he told the Salt Lake Tribune, in a campaign cycle that has been nothing but a race to the bottom at such a critical moment for our nation, and with so many who have tried to be respectful of a record primary vote, the time has come for Governor Pence to lead the ticket. Jason Chaffetz got over that whole thing pretty quickly and re-endorsed Donald Trump. We invited Congressman back on this program to tell us how he explained that to his daughter, and we are still waiting. Tonight, NBC News is reporting that President Trump will nominate Jon Huntsman as the United States ambassador to the most important country in the world. Well, I should say the most important country in Trump world. The most important country in the world, by most measures, of course, is the United States of America. The most important country in Trump world is Russia. And Jon Huntsman, if he is confirmed by the Senate, will therefore have the strangest job in the world, communicating, often directly, with Vladimir Putin on behalf of a government that, unbeknownst to Jon Huntsman, Vladimir Putin may very well, to some extent, control. That is the question. How much of the Trump government does Vladimir Putin control, if any? By all appearances, Vladimir Putin is in complete control of what Donald Trump actually says about him.
Putin is a nicer person than I am.
Well, he certainly has better manners than Donald Trump, but then who doesn't? Donald Trump, whose most recent violation of his oath of office was to accuse President Barack Obama of a crime, has never accused or even publicly suspected Vladimir Putin of committing a crime. How much influence does Vladimir Putin have over Donald Trump? If the answer is none, then so be it. Let's move on to one of the other many Trump scandals. But if Vladimir Putin does have some influence over Donald Trump, how did he get it? Is the answer in Donald Trump's never-to-be-released tax returns, which will soon be in the custody of a director of the IRS actually appointed by Donald Trump? Congressman Jason Chaffetz, who could never get enough of investigating Hillary Clinton, has no curiosity at all about any of the questions at the center of the Trump-Putin relationship. He has no curiosity about the nature of the Trump campaign's communications with Russians, including Russian government officials. Jason Chaffetz doesn't want to know the answers to what did President Trump know about that communication, and when did he know it? There is hope tonight for Lindsey Graham's soul, because he is one of the very few Republicans in Washington who has not yet sold his soul in its entirety to Donald Trump.
President Trump claims that President Obama administration targeted his campaign, Trump Tower, and the tweet. I have no knowledge of that, but he's challenged the Congress to help him, so let's help.
Lindsey Graham wants to use congressional power to get to the bottom of a tweet. He wants Congress to investigate a Donald Trump tweet because Donald Trump's staff challenged him to do that. Donald Trump's White House staff, which is the worst staff in Washington history, and I don't just mean the worst White House staff, the worst staff in Washington history, including all congressional staff in history, all department staff, all agency staff in the history of Washington staffs. We have never seen a more breathtakingly incompetent clubhouse than the Trump staff. They actually asked for a congressional investigation of the president. There are many more things I could say to prove that this is the most incompetent staff in history, but in this case, that one sentence will do. And now, Lindsey Graham has gone around the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Chuck Grassley, who doesn't want to investigate anything. And Lindsey Graham has written a letter directly to the Justice Department and the head of the FBI, co-signed by Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. They are demanding to know everything the Justice Department and the FBI knows about Donald Trump's tweet. Their letter says we would take any abuse of wiretapping authorities for political purposes very seriously. We would be equally alarmed to learn that a court found enough evidence of criminal activity or contact with a foreign power to legally authorize a wiretap of President Trump. Lindsey Graham signed this letter in his capacity as chairman of a subcommittee of the Judiciary Committee. Senator Whitehouse signed in his capacity as the senior Democrat on that same subcommittee. Now, small footnote here about the United States Senate. Subcommittees in the Senate have no power, and they do next to nothing. The Senate has subcommittees mostly so that the title of chairman can be spread around to people who would like to be able to mention it back home on the campaign trail. The chairman of the Judiciary Committee, who does have power, Chuck Grassley, never would have written that letter because Chuck Grassley knows what Donald Trump's staff doesn't, that investigating any one thing in the matrix of Trump scandal could easily unearth something else, something worse, something much worse, or even many, many things much worse. No one trying to protect Donald Trump like Jason Chaffetz or Chuck Grassley wants an investigation of anything. Throughout his life, it has been patently obvious that Donald Trump's worst enemy is Donald Trump. And now it is very clear that there is a tie for Donald Trump's second worst enemy among Sean Spicer, Steve Bannon, Kellyanne Conway, Reince Priebus, Stephen Miller, and every other rank incompetent working in Donald Trump's White House. Joining us now, Naveed Jamali, former FBI intelligence operative and author of How to Catch a Russian Spy. He worked as a double agent for the FBI against Russian military intelligence. He's also an MS